And welcome to another episode of Stuffing Around with the Servants. Let's blow up the Alien Nation research again. That never gets old. Oh, the Academy stole strategic deception. Look, that's kind of okay. It does remind me that I need to level up the security stat on Kamiya, because I imagine she's the one who's getting busted all the time. Because Kamiya, as a celebrity, cannot go to ground, which means I can't clear these detections. These little icons indicate that a faction has at some point detected the Counselor, and with people always hanging around in the United States, Kamiya is liable to get spotted. Oh no, we've lost the point in Slovakia. Well, I'll claim that back and protect it. That's just me failing to protect interests in Slovakia. We've also gone slightly over our MC cap. All that means is I need to turn some of my mothballed MC stations back on. But anyway, yes, we've blown up some servant research. I founded two new Tech 2 orbitals, well, a Tech 2 orbital and Tech 2 station on Mercury, and they are going to be the locations which house our research campuses, because we need to start pumping science in a big way. We need to drive this number to the moon and back. India is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, as is the United States. They collectively are giving 1.1 and 763 science respectively. We're picking up 218 from the Eurasian Union. The UK is doing 92. Most of our research is coming from nations, 10.3 from HABs and 11.5 from counsellors. I want to push that HAB bonus basically up to get research happening faster. Anyway, let me reclaim Slovakia and put control interests on it, defend interests rather. I'm going to probably coup the Czech Republic and then contact the resistance and bribe them with some technology just to make sure there's no bad blood. But we're getting to the point now where absorbing these mission control points into our nation is probably for the best. The reason we are in fact over right now is because we've lost two of Slovakia's points. I also want the remaining mission control from the Eurasian Union, so I think this episode we're going to be having a bit of a border conflict with the resistance, but we're going to be paying them off, bribing them at the same time to make sure the bad blood doesn't go too deep. Okay, so we've unlocked the research campus. In terms of cost efficiency, the research campus is pretty bloody expensive, mostly because of how many people go on it. If you compare the output per cost to the specialized labs, it's not competitive. Where it is competitive is how much space it takes up. So let's go have a look at a Mercury Station. And this is a case of a situation where we're going to want to mitigate the cost of a station using farms. So as it is, I built a farm for 250 crew, and I built 2 power generators. If we now go and look for a research campus, I've forgotten where it is. There it is. Okay, so this looks like it has a huge monthly support cost. It's basically just the crew. It's basically just the ungodly amount of crew there. Now, there's no reason to put this thing in orbit of Earth. It has no interface bonus, so we can happily put it on Mercury. 120 days, 120 days, 120 days. Great, so that's 300 crew. Now we're going to build another farm. This is not going to completely compensate, but it's going to take the edge off. Research campus, research campus, research campus, research campus. Now, let me just do a quick crew check. 15 plus 1, 2, 3, so 600 crew. 700 crew. And that's a fully compensated for research station. So that'll give us 7 by 50, which is kind of good. That's 450 additional research per month. Not bad. That we will notice. That we will notice. That's going to uptick our overall progress. And with the farms, it's mostly compensated for other than the MC cost. Now we'll go down. I'll repeat this process in a base that I just established on Mercury surface, and I may even establish 1 or 2 more of these stations because they're relatively cost efficient. I'm going to go up to about 110 mission control at this point. I don't want to tax our volatiles. I might establish a little more mining as well. But again, I want a little more strategic buffer. I will push towards, there are multiple techs that give you that additional, that ability to do more MC without provoking the aliens. I'm going to push for those as well. But in order to make it worth it, I need to convert that extra bonus, that extra bracket into something. And one way to do that is with these stations. We've now formed the 101st Airborne Divisions, so America is now up to 7 armies from the 6 that it has at game start. The 101st Airborne is full division strength and deployable. Now we need to invest in getting it a navy, and then we can ramp up another army. 8 for the US sounds like a nice number, but 7 is a very good start. We're going to have to fight wars on the planet eventually. We can't suppress the servants forever, but damn it, I can try. How are they doing on their research, by the way? They're at 427 out of 2,500. Well, I say in a couple of months, when they start to get close, we're going to pay them another visit. For the moment, we're going to turn one of their counselors again to make sure we have intelligence. My Marines should be reaching the planet Earth soon. Unfortunately, the aliens have taken to escorting their destroyers in orbit, so I'm not particularly keen on trying to shoot this down, although I might start working towards a small fleet that's capable of doing engagements like this. The alien hate from shooting down 2 vessels is probably manageable. I'd rather invest my hatred generation rather than surveillance in suppressing the servants on planet Earth. That's my personal preference at this stage, but I should be shooting down more surveillance destroyers if I can get away with it. I'm just not sure I can. Now, what better way to open than just reminding the servants that no, they cannot have alienation. That is not allowed. So I think that's the 3rd or 4th time we've sabotaged that. We're just going to knock them back to 0 again. I would have preferred if we got them when they were still researching the previous one, so we could knock 5,000 research points off at a time. But you know, I'll take what I can get. Oh, wow, okay, so the aliens didn't like that, and they're launching a fleet for Foxtrot 16. So what I'll do is I'll scatter that fleet and sacrifice a ship to the aliens if necessary. Clearly they want to be able to found the alien nation, but I guess it's time to feed them a ship. Yeah, I still think this is better than allowing this to be completed. I think buying myself more time, because I have far more nations under my control, I have more resources, I'm generating more resources quicker, so the gap between myself and the servants is increasing over time. So if I can delay the confrontation with them over the alien nation formation, that's probably for the better. I may actually use my spare cap. It may be time, even though Slovakia isn't quite finished. Maybe once it goes to 6 MC, it's time to bring it into the Eurasian Union, create some capacity, and instead of taking the resistance item from the Eurasian Union, which I seriously want to do, maybe bullying the servants a little bit more, but that's just going to cause more retaliation missions. I need to figure out where the servants are getting most of their research from. What nations do they have? The servants currently control Iran, Okay, so they've just got an alliance. They've got an alliance of smaller nations, and they're putting their research together from counselors and just piecing it together 30 research at a time. So there's no big single target that I can knock them out of now that I've pushed them out of the UK. Let me go scatter my fleet. But you know what? I still think that sabotage was the right decision. Everyone's got a space program now, including Mongolia. Bloody servants. Alright, so I'll need to give them some stuff to make up for this, but the long overdue thing has finally happened. We now have a monopoly in the Eurasian Union. And the Protectorate was targeting it too. Well, haha, sucks to be them. Max at his maximum skill level is always going to complete first. So there we are, 20th Guards is now under control, the Eurasian Union is under control, MC is back in an acceptable state, and we can fix up these priorities. So again, we want knowledge maximally. I'm not emphasizing army or navy, although we can finish one more army. It's not particularly useful unless we also want to commit to a navy. So I'm not going to do that at the moment. So I'm going to do this probably, continuing to focus on democratization as rapidly as possible. It's just important, especially if we're going to merge it with anything else. Otherwise, everyone's going to get whiplash when they suddenly move from a democracy to an anocracy. So I want to get this pushed well above 5, probably towards 6 or 7 as quickly as possible. It's slow, but you know, it is. We're living the dream here, okay? The other thing is volatile income is going down as we start to complete facilities off-world. That is to be expected. We're both going to need to find more volatiles to mine and get more of those farms up, because even though I said we're mitigating some of the upkeep for those science labs, not all of that volatile in water is the crew. Some of it is just the facility itself. So I'm going to go search for some major volatile locations now they've got a little more MC cap and throw some mining facilities out there. Possibly consider upgrading some of our existing ones to T2, but it's generally more efficient to get some T1s out there. Anyway, leave with me. Okay, so the UK has completed another navy. These are expensive, but as I've said before, they allow your armies to deploy overseas. So 1st and 3rd Division now both have navies. A little bit of a strain on the UK economy, but we're going to complete another navy anyway. These armies are nowhere near advanced as their US equivalents. However, they are armies, and if they can deploy overseas, they can add mass. 4.5 is very respectable. That's like the best that existed at game start. That is the best. That is the US equivalent. In fact, it's a little bit better than the US equivalent in 2022. So these divisions are just fine. They're also getting that +3 bonus from stations that are in orbit, which is pretty cool. So they're going to operate as 4.8s. If we advise them, they'll operate at above 5. Not bad. I'll explain how military tech works and the impact it has on the battlefield the first time we get into a real army fight. For the moment, however, the US army is on its way to Kyiv because it turns out Slovakia can only fit 6 mission control and we are over our control point cap, so it is time for a supervised referendum. Security measures is always a nice one to pick up. If you ever see your control points flipping for no reason and you don't understand why your points suddenly went over to the servants, you're probably being enthralled. The defense against being enthralled is the average science level of your counselors, plus just making sure there's not many aliens around. Also, every time, well, I won't spoil the rest of it. I don't understand all the mechanics, but I understand some of them, and I try not to spoil all of them at once. So that is great. We'll sort this by category. I'll pick a next technology. I think point defense particle beams might be a good one, just as a low-tech defensive option, but we're going to be going for mostly higher-tech weapons soon. Exodus did win a research slot. They've got us going into arc lasers, so arc lasers it is. Alien technology is completing in July, fleet combatants in June, and we're pushing for Great Nations tech in March of next year. Awesome. India likewise has launched another navy, so we are building up our expeditionary capabilities. Do I want India to go to a third? Now, India's armies are not as effective. They're only atomic age, and there are only 3 of them. So I think 2 with navies is respectable. We'll turn that off, and we'll go back over to an economy, welfare, knowledge, spend. The Indian economy is growing again, and it's growing again at a quite impressive clip, but we can do better. That said, I'm keeping the pressure on knowledge. The fully advanced economy of India is capable of spitting out some real good research, but it will do even better once GDP per capita catches up, which is exactly what we're working on now. Product of education level, economy, cohesion, democracy, and unrest. So the economy is really the weak spot for the scientific output in India now, so we're going to pick that up with a little more economy investment, but I'm kind of liking where this is going. Let's in fact do that. 40, 20, 40. The low inequality is really, really good. I'm happy with how this is going. What is about to go wrong that is going to ruin this playthrough? I'm even balancing the volatile income again as farms come online as lower the critical upkeeps. I'm nervous, guys. This is going okay. It's 2031. The aliens aren't provoked, and we're doing all right. What's going to happen? I don't know. We're going to keep building. I think what's going to eventually happen, if we don't keep an eye on it, is the alien nation will complete. But for the moment, I'm happy to continue juggling that. Let's see how we go. I literally just asked what was going to go wrong, and it turns out that the aliens are going to start bombarding our facilities in Mars because they're pissed off at us. But you know, that's okay. Mars Base 6, or Mars Base 4 rather. So he'll bombard that.
Public sentiment is increasingly with us.
Continue to campaign in India. Mars Base 4, which primarily produces noble metals. Outpost mining complex. Outpost mining complex destroyed. Thank you, aliens. I hope you feel better after that. Please ignore the fact that as soon as you depart, there is immediately another outpost mining complex that lands immediately afterwards. And let's go Energy Science Lab. Oh, and we've lost our servant agent. Bugger. bugger, because they're the person who guarantees that we're always going to be able to find a servant agent in order to sabotage. So I'm going to have to track another one down. It is high maintenance, and I wanted to spend time sending some of my agents to ground anyway, but unfortunately that's not going to be possible. Well, there you go. The aliens took a little bit of vengeance. I hope they got it out of their system for the moment. Let's continue. Let's continue with the referendum. That's probably the obvious next step. Fleet combatants gives us access to level 3 ships, the cruiser, the battle cruiser, and the battleship, but until I get fancier weapons and armor modules, I don't really fancy a battle. I've achieved what I wanted to do so far. I'm operating on the assumption that it's better to not provoke the aliens than it is to get into a fleet fight at this stage. I don't yet want to try and get into a building and engagement race with them, so I'm just sort of laying low. That said, we are absolutely putting ourselves in the best possible position to deal with them in the future. I kind of wanted to get appeal to fair messaging, but it's kind of expensive given the number of public campaigns we do now, which is much fewer than we used to. Anyway, I will, however, build a colony ship soon. That's on my list. And I will grab shipyards because we're going to need them at some point. Until I unlock some more top-level techs, I'm not going to have the sort of anything special in terms of engineering that I want to pick up. So I'm not particularly fussed. And yes, everyone, I'm doing Great Nations so that we can do some unifications and some map painting. It'll be great. It'll just start in the 2030s. I'm not rushing it. I've gotten a good setup. And once I'm in a solid position, we'll start doing some map painting. So this is an example of one map painting nation you can do. The Caliphate is intended to unite many of the Islamic nations. So what we could do is, if we did found it, we'd have to take control of some of the Middle East from the servants and the protectorate and start cleaning this region up into a major power. So that's one potential benefit that we can go with. There will also be options to expand India, which I think would be interesting, expand the European Union or Russia, to expand the United States, although that one's the one I'm the most nervous about because I don't want to lose the military tech level by averaging out with anyone that it annexes. I want the US to be able to expand eventually. I'm just nervous about the army deteching as a result. There's all sorts of good great nations that we'll have available to us. I'm sure people in the comments will have ideas on what they want to see founded. Heck, maybe they want to see me take over Australia and do something with it. I don't know. I've been leaving it to the protectorate so far. They're not completely abusing it, although they are trying to turn it into a military power. It's about to have an army with a navy, which will give the protectorate actually some offensive capability beyond just what they have with the Chinese, who, by the way, they have built into a humongous military power. They now have 6 nuclear barrages, they have a whole bunch of armies, they're building navies. Like, the protectorate in China is militarizing, basically. It would be great at some point to be able to throw them out of China, but I just have no idea how to do it without a nuclear war or some serious orbital firepower advantages. So maybe it's worth picking up railguns at some point so that we can add some orbital firepower, some rods from God to our arsenal. Alright, alien technology has been researched. Today alone we have seen no less than 48 requests for everything from recovered databanks to simple bulkhead fasteners. It's understandable given that each item is a potential treasure trove of knowledge, both at a technological level, how does it operate, what is its purpose, and a chemical one, what was it created from and where. The recovered technology has begun to yield its secrets, the theoretical applications of which very much depend on our own intentions. We're going to make really big guns. We're going to make really big guns and we're going to shoot the aliens, because that's how humanity first works. Unfortunately, with such a finite amount of these alien artifacts to hand, we can for now only scratch the surface of their potential. We've completed the research alien technology objective. We finally managed to get a handle on the principle the alien tech is built on. For once, we may have some good news. We've definitely confirmed that every piece of alien technology we've looked at has been built right here in our solar system, using mostly materials from planets and asteroids around our sun. The fact the aliens are using weapons and ships they built here, and not just bringing a fleet of battleships straight from home, suggests they're operating under harsh resource constraints, which we know because of the wormhole and what we learned from them in terms of their motivations. If we can destroy the solar system manufacturing facilities, they will be crippled. Aha, Mr. Castillo, you're starting to realize that this is a conventional fight that we might win. There is, however, a catch. Almost every single piece of alien tech contains some kind of alloy that our scientists can't identify at all. The materials boys claim that this is an alien alloy that allows their ships to do whatever they do. Unfortunately, even if we melted down every piece of alien tech we've got, we still wouldn't have enough of the stuff for a proper study. We're going to need something bigger. New objective: salvage alien warship. which we have now done. So here we are. We've completed salvage alien warship, and this is because you can get alien technology from things other than destroying a warship. This is just the route that I find easiest. So there we are. It makes human spacecraft look like children's toys. It's true, we're working on it though. Superior to our advanced craft in every way. True, except for the raw number of missile banks that we can fit onto a monitor. Once we boarded, resistance was light. Marine swept the thing no time at all. So that happened before. Research. Okay, so we can research alien computers. National investment points to redirect mission control are increased by 25%. Knowledge is increased by 2%. Our ships take 5% later. I'm not sure 5% is going to help. Alien computers is relatively cheap, though. Alien computers is relatively cheap. I'm tempted to pick that up, but I'm also tempted to pick up fulfill objective their weakness or their purpose. These are all techs. Ferrocite resistance. I'm going to pick up ferrocite resistance. It sounds like something I should have. It's a massive research topic, but I will do what I do. We're pushing at a significant bonus here. It looks like I haven't replaced all of my skunk work, so I might build a few more of those. If I'm possibly push the MC higher, yeah, maybe. The UK, once the UK's finished its next navy, it can convert to mission control. But for the most part, I actually think absorbing the Czech Republic is going to be the way to go. It's almost finished its 6th point of MC. It can be absorbed into the Eurasian Union without a CP cost. And the military is already here, so that may be something for me to consider. Oh, and just so you know, I'm absolutely doing this again. Boom. Sucks to be you, servants. Sucks to be you. Oh, woohoo! We've now unlocked Maskirovka. This is going to get top priority. This is another 25% reduction to the threat level for our mission control. And mission control is the barrier. It's the gateway to my economic development. And I finished high. Okay, this is all fantastic. Okay, so regulatory capture. When that finishes on the 28th of July, we're putting a maximum priority spend onto Maskirovka. How much does Maskirovka cost? 20,000. Don't care. Researching it. Maximum priority. I want to extend my development space. Let's put this back to category. And I think nuclear fusion in space or extended space survival. Because I also want to start working towards tier 3 structures. But this is going to take longer, and I want to increase the international fusion level, so I'm going to start fusion reactors. People have asked for instructions on how energy techs work in this game, because there are multiple trees. You can go fission, you can go fusion, there are different sorts of fusion. You can go antimatter, inertial and Z-pinch. It's complicated, it's involved, it's awesome, I love it. It just takes a little bit to understand. Future episode, when we get further, once we've researched fusion in space, I'll start talking about the choices. Generally speaking, fission is the easiest, quickest to go down, and it still gives you some interesting payoffs. Fusion is more expensive, more involved. It gives you more bells and whistles, but it takes you longer to research. I've pushed my energy bonus up to 75%. I might even go higher on that, even though there are diminishing returns. If I can push this up past 100%, it will save us some time. But also just pushing more raw science through the system by getting our research facilities set up. So there we go. I'm feeling good. Also, voting has commenced in Bratislava. Yeah, we'll come back and see what they vote on soon. All right, so this is telling me that in January 2032, I'm going to get like another 15 to 20 MC worth of safety credits. So that means, just like the good old days, I found an orbital, low Mercury orbit. You probably know where this is going. Solar array. Op center. How many crew? Op center have 50 crew. And let's combine it for efficiency's sake with to make sure we don't waste as much. That's providing for about 100. Oh, this is going to be perfect. 200, 250. All right, that should be a water and fissile, and volatile as neutral as I can make it orbital core station, which will give us just a little bit more MC to immediately play with and speed up our next phase of expansion. I'm still not going out of solar system. I'm tempted to go out of solar system, but I like hiding in the inner solar system because once we start poking the aliens, everything we have out and about is probably just going to get smashed. My goal at the moment is just to outbuild them. The aliens are no doubt expanding well. They have a lot of habs. I haven't counted exactly how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're very angry at me. They're very angry at me. Although that is an old estimate. So anyway, they got a lot of fleets. They got a lot of habs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They got 30 habs. They got 30 orbitals and bases. But to be fair, I probably have about that too. I'm doing pretty well. I do think that the only human faction that is doing well other than me is because the resistance is still waterlocked, which is causing them great problems. That said, they're managing to overcome it with just ridiculous boost outputs, but they really need to find some more water. It's Project Exodus with 91 mission control utilized, which means the aliens are going to start shooting them soon. Jeez, Exodus, man. I'm so proud of these guys. They're doing so well. They're doing so well. 107 water income, 66 volatile, 343 metal, 74 noble. That noble income is considerably better than mine. Considerably better than mine. So maybe I need to up the nobles because, I can't be outcompeted by the AI, So I might, and I know I've already launched some probes to locations which are high on volatiles. I've got these that are in construction. But just for my own sake of, inferiority complex kind of deal. How long to get to Merapi? 524 days. That might be a good candidate for a colony ship. So let's quickly rig up a colony ship. We want to make it as small as possible and as long ranged as possible. We want a utility module. We want a fission outpost kit. That's what we need. We'll slap a solid core fission reactor on. We can probably make do with an ion drive, although a pulsar might get us the range we want if we don't armor it. But let's stick this on to start with. It's just the acceleration's so slow. This thing will need a radiator. I don't think it needs a battery necessarily because it's never going to be drawing. I'm going to put adamantane armor on, but I'm going to put 0 armor on. What are you missing? Oh, it must have a battery. Okay. You can have the lithium-ion battery because it's marginally lighter. Alright, so this thing's got 50 kps, and we could easily get heaps more out of it, but not much acceleration. Let's just quickly see whether we can make one that's faster with a lot of kps with yeah, that's much faster. So we can get 18 kps and 43 millig's acceleration. I can get 30 kps and 30. More 124 kps and 30. This thing is designed for long range. Let's lower the propellant tanks down to 19. This thing will do a cruise of 35 millig's. So it's useless in combat, absolutely useless in combat, but the cruise acceleration's fine. It's got 112 range, which I think is pretty good. I'm going to up that to 120, just in case we really need to reach out to long distance targets. This is a transport. This is an inner system colony ship, so it'll avoid combat. And this, what sort of class is this? You know what? This is the platypus. Awesome. Alright, the first science campuses, and I shouldn't say first, I think I was building them all in parallel, so I think they're all finished now. Let's go humanity first, Mercury just to confirm. I think everything is complete, except for the station that we just founded. Yep, so here we are. So this station is costing us 20 water and 20 volatiles a month, which has dragged our volatiles income down to 40 a month, but we've got a solid stockpile there. I would like to lift that income, but most importantly, it's lifted our monthly science income to 5.4k. We're now generating 50.4 from Habs and 74.7 from nations. That's a considerable improvement. Yeah, we're almost doing, not almost doing, but we're approaching the point where we're doing almost as much research in space as we are on the planet. It's just very expensive. Our money, however, is still positive. We're at plus 174 per month, so I am holding positive. That is okay. These facilities are very expensive when you compare them to like Tech 1 mines or whatnot, because think about it, there's 740 crew on this station. And yes, I'm keeping the support costs down. Let me just see what happens if I did this. Okay, so each of these is producing, effectively, each of these farms is producing 8 water and 8 volatiles per month, which is not a bad effort for just an individual module. Far more efficient than just building more mines if we can offset with it. All right, that works. That's considerably increased our science output. I'm happy with that. We are, however, now over cap, and the reason we're over cap is because India chose this time to grab grow an extra CP. Like, good on you, India. I'm proud of you, and eventually I had to do this because I had to break India out of its GDP lock at some point. But now that it's there, India is much more expensive to maintain, and I am over CP limit as a result. So you can bet that I will be hunting for some options to increase that. I believe there's some plus 10s in here that I might have to pick up. I can also grab management research for 5. That might be worth it. Okay, so common cause. Common cause increases it by 10. So if I grab that, I'll grab that in like a couple of days. It'll slow me down on everything else, but I'll grab that. That'll close the cap to 467 versus 478. That's serviceable. That's serviceable, so I'll grab that quickly. I'll deprioritize that. Keep working on Maskirovka. I'll manage to get this. I'll get this number above 500 eventually. But yeah, a little bit of a problem because of India's growth. Alien Nation still only at 367. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on the servants. We don't want them to complete their research. And of course, I'm still looking covetously at the Czech Republic. I think I can get away with a coup and invasion there. Again, what happens every time this happens is I make contact with the resistance and I give them something. I might give them some water. It'll help them out. In exchange for them taking a blind eye to the fact that the Czech Republic is being unified with its Slavic brothers in Poland. Yeah, ignore the fact that that this is the Czech bit. It's not Czechoslovakia anymore. The Slovaks are something different. Anyway, let's move on. Maybe cut the previous point about Czechs not being Slavs. One thing I just find funny, sorry, this is not significant, this is just funny. The Protectorate is using all of its armies in China to just race around trying to cut down all the xenoflora because they were leaving it for so long, I presume because they were trying to, like, not offend the aliens. And now China is getting overrun by the stuff and they're just struggling to deal with it. So, it is what it is. China has extreme inequality, which is not good. Its GDP is falling. Its science output is half of what India's is. India is still only half as big economically, but has a far more advanced education system and as a result is putting out more science output. The United States, meanwhile, doesn't have the same GDP as China, purchasing power parity terms. Ooh, the US has gone vaguely negative. So once this next Navy finishes, I'll juice the US a little bit I'll juice the US a little bit with some economy investment. On the plus side, welfare has reduced inequality to a low level, and the economy is obviously 11.2. Like, the United States is just... The US is pretty utopic in every sense. Not everyone is super rich. They're just the richest people in the world, on average, accounted for, like, person per GDP on this map, I'm pretty sure. But they're very, very well educated. They love books. The Americans all love books. They love 2 things, okay? No, 3. They love killing aliens or resisting aliens. Basically, they're all on board with the alien killing camp. They love the military, and they love books, reading, and science. That's basically the America that we have built in service of humanity first. It's just a game. Alright, so this is our first use of a colony ship. We've deployed an ion engine, humanity first ship Platypus. It's going to 536 Merapi. 70.61 weeks seems like a very long time, but it's actually considerably faster than what we could launch manually. So what will happen now is the Platypus will disengage from dock. It'll slowly break out of orbit, disengage from the ship, and then it will engage in a very, 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 very long burn towards that asteroid. So there we are, that's the platypus on its way. Until then, it will only cost 1 MC. I'm also building a longer ranged marine transport to go after that servant base in the asteroid belt. I'm also considering doing some land transfers. I'm considering taking some land off the initiative and handing it over to the resistance, both to maintain some goodwill and also to give the aliens more people to shoot at. I actually think Exodus is already doing quite a good job of building up their MC and triggering some sort of activity from the aliens. I'd like to see the resistance doing the same. It's really good to see the AI, if not matching me in terms of science, certainly running their space development extremely aggressively, which is good. My development's been gated by not wanting to be killed by the aliens, to be sure, but they're doing pretty well. And if they get a lot of mining income, it also means I can buy it from them in extremis. So I am considering taking from the rich in the form of the initiative and maybe the academy and transferring that stuff to the resistance or to Exodus because I basically decided that they're my mates. We have couped the Czech Republic, so I will take control of the government. And then we will arrange another US supervised referendum to bring 5 additional mission control into under our control. Life is good. Well, the Protectorate have found some teeth. They've built Australia up, they've gotten an army, they've gotten a navy, now they can go overseas, so they've decided to attack South Africa. The problem is, I don't actually think that one Australian army is going to be enough to take Johannesburg, but we shall see. Still, a gutsy move by the Protectorate. I would have thought that they'd be happy with China. Whether they bring China into that, if they bring China into that war, they'll win. If not, they won't. Either way, it'll distract the resistance, it'll distract them. I'm really annoyed that these Earth surveillance missions are going unchallenged, but building up to fight 614 combat power from 2 corvettes and a destroyer. The corvettes carry missile bays and a light mag cannon, so they have no point defense, but they do put out a lot of missiles, and our PD isn't quite good enough yet, although with our new particle PD, maybe. So what I'm considering doing with a few more techs is I'll retire the existing fleet, basically. I'll shut down the existing fleet, and I'll rebuild a new one with a new generation of technology. We just don't have everything I want yet. We are temporarily over the MC and CP limits. The MC problem is about to be finished by grabbing the Czech Republic, and then once we absorb it, we should be under the CP limit again. A lot of juggling, but we're up to 477 limits, so we're not doing that badly. See, usually I cut stuff that's repetitive, but, this is just kind of cool. Oh, what's this? Aliens will transfer a significant amount of space resources to our stockpile daily. Well, I don't want that either. I've just locked the servants out of space. I don't want them getting freebies from the aliens. That said, we'll blow up the alien nation, and then next turn, we'll sabotage Hydra direct support network. I'm not sure how sustainable that is in terms of hate, but, it is what it is. I can't gate the servants forever, but I like to think that I've significantly slowed them down, and that has some value in and of itself. Buying time for us to do our thing. Declare a referendum in the Czech Republic. Orbital core for Congo Station in Mercury. That won't have its research facilities ready, its MC facilities ready yet, but it will be active. Let's deploy the military into the Czech Republic. Good old Czechia. Management research is complete, so that should give us 5 extra. And then, so many options available to me. Good times. And we'll blow this up as well. I'm considering, since most of their research is of, since we have Marines in orbit, it might be worth, once we get more MC, taking their station, which gives them the plus 20 or plus 40% Xenology bonus away from them. It'll provide one-off hate, but at the same time it'll reduce their bonus for this. And just in time, we've completed Maskirovka. So that's great. So we have now cut the impact of our MC by, and I'm not sure whether those bonuses are additive or multiplicative, so I'm not sure whether we have a 50% reduction or whether we have a like 37.5% reduction or whatever it is. But I'll see if I can find out. But either way, our MC impact should be significantly lessened. So as soon as those op centers come online in Mercury, we should be in a position for another round of expansions. That means more mines. It means larger bases on our existing mines and a consolidation of the inner solar system economy. And through the Masters of Editing, I removed the coughing that just occurred there. So it'll allow us to consolidate the inner solar system and then start thinking about going further out. But for the moment, I have so much so many places to build them in the inner solar system. I don't really feel the need to stretch out, although I would get better yields if I was willing to go out to the moons of like Jupiter and Saturn, etc. So I'll give some thought to that. I probably need to do. I'm about to consolidate this down by 14, so what'll that make? It'll bring me just under the cap, but India is expanding, and I want to be able to expand. So I might actually grab. I'll find if there's any more plus 10 influence ones. If not, there's all sorts of good stuff that we can get here. Alien Computers is a fantastic one. Another grab of management research. It's relatively minor, but that might be worth it as well. Peer-to-field messaging. Lots of good technologies for us to grab here. Meanwhile, in terms of the big techs, great nations, arc lasers, nuclear fusion in space, this is all good stuff. We've started exotic materials and ferrocite resistance. It's all xenology all the time at the moment, but that's okay because we get like a 200% bonus to it, so it does help speed it up. And of course, our research income has spiked dramatically. So I will pick some science. I will continue harassing the servants. I will, as soon as I get my new MC, I will explode another round of space expansion. I've started to recover the space economy. I'm also building the resistance a gift. I'm building a base. Where is it? Because I haven't named it yet, which is one of the ways I can tell about it. St. Elias base, here we are. St. Elias base, as soon as this mine is finished, I'm going to sell this base on series that produces a whole bunch of water. I'm considering selling that to the Resistance to solve their water deficit problem and help them get going again in space. I just think it is in our best interest to do so. It's a decent site, so I could definitely get value out of it myself. It is quite a valuable site. It's this one here. So quite valuable, not as valuable as the Yellowed Crater, but I think instead I'm just going to put the emphasis, as I have, on upgrading the Yellowed Crater, which I will now do. Settlement Mining Complex, 72, Fission Reactor Array, Fission Reactor Array, and I'll do the rest of this upgrading process. Basically get more output out of this mine. I'll trade the rest to the Resistance, and that should be that. Hope you're enjoying. The strategy of staying under the alien radar is working for us so far. What I really want to do now is pick up some of those xenology researchers, so exotic materials, alien computers, alien weapons, and then I want to start seeing what humanity can manage in terms of the next generation of warfare technology. That means tier 3 stations and orbitals, it means fusion reactors, and it means a second or third tier of weapon and armor technology to allow us to finally consider defending our orbit against the sort of fleets the aliens are now rolling around with, because gone are the lone surveillance ships in most cases, and in are fleets of 700-ish combat power. We're going to need better. We're going to get better. See you soon.